It surprises me that these are still available at yard sales.
Who says yard sales cannot have valuable items worth thousands of dollars. This lady bought a mini statue at a yard sale for $40 because she felt it looked like a Chinese Buddha made around the 1600s.
You're correct. It's a Chinese Buddha. It's a bodhisattva. It's a diva. It's a female form of Buddha. She's a multi-armed deity. There are some small losses. These are all attributes, and they're mostly Buddhistic symbols. You have a sword here with no blade. You have a hand, an attribute missing from my right.
Yep.
However, she isn't really fascinated by the item and leaves it inside a box in her garage. She thought it could be worth something despite the damage. Tell us, is that also the case?
I think in an auction setting, a value of $15,000 to $20,000 would be conservative.
Okay. Wow. That's awesome.
But that's not all, right?
And in a retail setting, I would imagine it to carry a value of $30,000.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much.
Well bought.
Yeah, apparently.
The guest brought in a captivating, intricately carved walking cane he had purchased online a few years ago. Attracted by the impressive menagerie of 35 creatures adorning the cane, he acquired it for its aesthetic appeal and affordability. On examining the weight and material, it was determined to be crafted from white pine or basswood, both North American woods favored by carvers for their ease of working. Moving on to the intricate carvings, a variety of North American creatures were identified, including crocodiles, alligators, rattlesnakes, horny toads, and lizards. The carving techniques are very much commendable, particularly the use of negative space to define the legs of the spider. The presence of the original metal ferrule at the cane's tip further indicated its age and quality. The carver has remarkable talent, but unfortunately there is no signature or identifying mark on this piece. When estimated, the cane's creation date was around 1890 to 1900, placing it within the tradition of skilled yet unidentified carvers. The thick lead paint used in the 19th century could have obscured the intricate details of the carvings.
Cane carvers, it's my theory, my belief, that some of these carvers did not paint them intentionally.
Considering the cane's craftsmanship, rarity, and intricate details, the estimated fair retail value is...
I think in today's market, a fair retail valuation for this would be $6,000 to $8,000.
Oh. A cleaning lady who cracked the plates in this set would have probably been fired if the family knew how much it would affect the value. The father to the guest on the show was an art dealer who bought 8 out of the 10 plate set. The designer of the plate is an artist named Arthur Bradbury. Bradbury designed the plates at the Poole Pottery Factory in 1832.
We find always they have this inscription, 1932, and the designer and the painter.
Value for each plate, depending on its condition, was between £150 to £1,000. Oddly looking cow clay vessel was used to retain the hotness of stew. It was used to present food on tables and was big enough to contain a decent quantity of food.
Now you would have got your rabbit stew in there, you would have got a whole.
The vessel was made with flower pot clay, which was good at retaining temperature. On the piece was a moulded figure of a Dutch man, which suggests that it was made around the 18th century. The piece was passed on to the owner from her mother. Regardless of the damage to the item, it is valued at £3,000 to £4,000.
An Italian Renaissance Revival charger is a decorative plate with classical elements with classical motifs such as architectural elements, mythological scenes, and scrolling foliage. It is crafted during the 19th century. It captures the sense of Renaissance elegance and cultural richness with its luxurious attractiveness, enhanced by rich colors and metallic elements.
Very old crack on the rim. It's really hard to see. And so it doesn't affect the visual appeal on the front, but it does affect the value a little bit.
And provided a material link to the creative legacy of Italy's Golden Age. In the middle of the charger, there would be a picture inspired by Renaissance art. With a deep appreciation for craftsmanship, the appraiser values the Italian Renaissance Revival charger.
So I would say that a retail value with a crack would probably be in the $500 to $800 range. Okay. If we didn't have the crack, or maybe up to $1,000.
This Samuel Yellen light fixture, rescued from the trash by their father-in-law, a former member of the Washington National Cathedral Boys Choir, Samuel Yellen was a master blacksmith and craftsman renowned for his exquisite metalwork, particularly in iron. The Chapel of the Resurrection hosts an identical lamp, honoring Samuel Yellen's iron craftsmanship. The distinct mark of Samuel Yellen on this piece, a 1910 Samuel Yellen fixture, showcases his signature. It underscores his prominence as a metalworker based in Philadelphia. He continued supplying pieces for the National Cathedral over a period of time. The majority of Yellen's lighting fixtures have an arts and crafts design. Today, Samuel Yellen's pieces are highly collectible. For this Samuel Yellen's lamp, the appraiser values the item.
But if I were to see this come up for auction, I would expect to see an estimate of around about $3,000 to $4,000.
That's fantastic. That's an expensive piece of scrap metal.
She admires this sculpture so much that she cannot stop singing praises about it. Edward Onslow Ford is the man behind the creation of this piece. It is a bronze sculpture made in the 1880s. Ford's pieces are mostly representations of women, just like the one brought to the show. The piece was valued at $20,000.
To mark sacred ceremonies, instruments called pipes were used. Of worthy mention here is the material used to house these pipes, which are called pipe bags. Today's guest shows us an interesting type of pipe bag of Indian origin, called a Southern Cheyenne pipe bag.
This is a Southern Cheyenne pipe bag and would have held a man's pipe. The beads are beautiful.
This material shows unique beads on its surface, which magnify its beauty. We can also see that it's dyed yellow, which adds to its radiance. The piece was likely created in 1870 to be used for sacred Indian ceremonies. As a material created for the ages and used for exclusive events, this piece auctions at,
I would think this would probably easily bring $8,000 to $10,000 at an auction.
Not bad.
This book, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, was owned by the guest's great-uncle. Later, the guest's father inherited it, and the guest's wife selected this book for an appraisal. It's an outstanding American edition of Jules Verne's work. Typically, true first editions are from the author's country, but this is a rare first American edition. The book was published in France in 1869, then in England in 1872, and finally in the U.S. in 1873.
And then you've got an American edition with an imprint of 1873. And so if you look down here, it says Boston, James Osgood and Company, 1873.
Most copies were lost in the Boston Fire of 1872, making this edition a rarity.
So actually, this is one of the true rarities of world fiction.
Unique features like a different title page and cover vignette distinguish it. The appraiser appraises it at a whopping.
This copy is probably a $10,000 book, $10,000 to $15,000 at auction.
The guest discovered the map in a gallery in Grand Rapids, Michigan, several years ago and was immediately intrigued by it. He initially missed the chance to purchase it, but his wife surprised him with it as a birthday gift. The appraiser identifies the map as Herman Mall's Map of North America, dating from around 1715.
Map of North America by Herman Mall. He was of German origin, but he lived in London and he was very prolific.
Map is nicknamed the cod map due to its depiction of salted cod laid out for drying, highlighting the importance of the cod fishing industry, which was vital for the British fleet and the British Empire at the time. The map also showcases British dominance of the sea, with indications such as the Sea of the British Empire and
you British dominance of the sea at this time. There's so many indications of this. Over here, you see the Sea of the British Empire.
The map features inset maps showcasing safe surroundings for harbors, intended to entice settlers to the New World by demonstrating the ease of colonization. It includes depictions of tobacco rolls, emphasizing the wealth available to settlers in the New World. This Herman Mall's map's current retail value is estimated to be between
Today's market, the retail value would be between $7,000 and $9,000.
That's good.
A painting that was in the Carnegie Mansion in New York City was gifted to the boilerman of the family. The Carnegie Mansion was home to industrialist and philanthropist Andrew Carnegie and his family. The lady's father-in-law worked as a boilerman for the family.
Chose to get rid of certain things that she did not want, so they put small prices on everything, hoping that the employees of the building could purchase them, not knowing that they were going to be gifted.
Wow.
So everybody picked some moderate things to take, and then at the end they didn't have to pay for it, and this is one of them. And it was in my in-laws' house since 1946, which is the year my husband was born, and he remembers it being in the house all those years and loved it.
The painting was done in 1900 by Joseph Henry Sharp, a famous American painter and founding member and spiritual father of the Teos Society of Artists. Sharp has produced around 10,500 works. I think everyone would like to receive such a gift from their employer.
This painting would bring between $50,000 and $70,000.
I can't believe it. That's amazing.
Gene the Jeep, Popeye's mystical dog-like companion and Olive Oil's pet, is the subject of this intriguing figurine brought in by the guest. Passed down from the guest's grandmother who had a collection of knickknacks, this figurine has always held a special fascination for the guest, and
my grandmother had a lot of knickknacks around her house. This one was always kind of on the top shelf.
Eugene the Jeep was introduced into the Popeye comic strip in the 1930s by creator Segar. The figurine, a rare and well-preserved piece from 1936, showcases Eugene the Jeep's unique appearance, which is a combination of a dog and a rodent, adding to its charm and collectability.
Popeye's dog, kind of a mascot, kind of his sidekick is what I understand of it.
Despite its age, the figurine is in remarkable condition, which contributes to its estimated value of
This one would retail for about $1,500 to $1,800.
Wow.
On a plantation in Louisiana, in a wooden house, there sits vintage Vogue chairs. These chairs are called Campeche chairs, named after their origin from the port town of Campeche. Interestingly, the chair was a symbol of power, used by the Romans, and was made from mahogany wood.
Collectors love the American-made ones, especially Louisiana chairs. And the great thing is that we really have a Louisiana chair here.
Another thing from this chair is the curel base, which is evident with its curved legs. When you look closely, you will see that the chair arms have S-shaped ends with its crest elegantly blended with the mahogany wood and was distinctive of pieces made in 1820. As simple and ordinary as these chairs might look at first glance, there is more to it than meets the eye. So the estimated values at auction are said to be around.
Campeche chairs range in value from $3,000 to about almost $30,000 at auction.
Well, this is fantastic to learn about the history of these iconic chairs.
The owner of this item hopes the maker is as valuable as the great Picasso. Unfortunately, he's not. A piece was made around 1950 in Italy by Marcello Fantoni. Marcello was a talented ceramist who made great pieces. The item was given a value of $3,000.
Oh my, that's a nice return on my money, isn't it?
Excellent return.
This art proof featuring Batman, Joker, and Robin is more than just a poster. It's a rare piece of Bob Kane, the legendary co-creator of Batman with Bill Finger for DC Comics in 1939. Our guest acquired this piece as a child and paid $50 for it. The art proof showcases a unique scene with the Joker playing with Batman and Robin like puppets, demonstrating Kane's artistic creativity and storytelling prowess. In terms of value, this art proof is estimated to fetch between
playing with Batman and Robin like puppets.
I love it.
$1,500 to $2,500 at auction.
Yeah, really?
This painting originally hung in the guest's father's house in New York City for many years. The artist of this painting was Georges Krogart. George Krogart was a Belgian painter born in 1848 who specialized in depicting young ladies in boudoirs and cardinals engaged in various activities. The painting in question was created in the 1880s. This painting showcased Krogar's meticulous attention to detail, especially notable in the intricate Japanese-inspired objects and the delicate features of the subject. Despite minor condition issues such as frame rubbing and yellowing, the painting bore the artist's signature and the date 1886. Given its rarity and the enduring appeal of Krogar's work, the appraiser estimated the painting's value to be between
Because you have this woman in a boudoir, I put an estimate of $30,000 to $50,000 on this painting.
You're kidding. Wow, thank you.
A fancy long case clock by John Aylward was brought to the show by the owner. John Aylward was a clockmaker who settled in Guildford during the late 17th century and began making clocks. John presented a clock to Guildhall, which was erected on the building. The guest clock was a 10-inch dial with a single hand. Its casing was slightly damaged after the owner attempted to restore it. Unfortunately, this affected the value of the clock.
With the case in this state, probably no more than about 5,000 to 6,000. But it is a very, very unusual clock.
The guest purchased a butterfly table online because he had never seen one on the Roadshow before, piquing his interest in this unique piece of furniture. However, upon closer inspection, the appraiser discovered that while the table is not a reproduction, it has undergone significant restoration and alteration, affecting its value and authenticity. One key indicator of restoration is the oxidized wood, which shows that parts of the table.
This is oxidized wood. You can actually scratch it. Here, it can't make a mark because it's not oxidized, hasn't been exposed to air. And the top here, you can see, is pretty fresh.
Another telltale sign is the butterfly wings on the table, which should exhibit consistent scratching if they were original.
Look at this scratch that actually stops right here. Do you see that? Now, the reason is that, of course, it was made out of an old board that was already scratched.
The appraiser explains that while the form of this table has been faked since the 1920s, authentic pieces from the 1720s to 1740s period would have had different construction and wear patterns. Ultimately, the appraiser values the table at less than
This up, but it's worth less than $3,000. It's worth about a tenth of that.
It's not often we see a piece that perfectly depicts a classic imagined Wild West scene. Today's guest presented a piece entailing the exploit of an American icon, William F. Cody, commonly known as Buffalo Bill, a name he earned after competing and winning an 8-hour buffalo shooting match. He began his career as a plainsman and buffalo hunter, and his experiences on the frontier shaped his future as the world's famous showman.
1915 when he ended his show business career. And he was originally a plainsman. He was actually a frontiersman who'd be out on the plains.
In the late 1800s, America's fascination with the Wild West was at its peak, and Buffalo Bill seized the opportunity and created Buffalo Bill's Wild West. One of the most famous attractions of his show was the stagecoach that made the perilous journey from Deadwood, South Dakota, to the mines laden with gold.
And what it depicts is a classic imagined Wild West scene. You see mounted Native Americans attacking the stagecoach.
The stagecoach was not just a means of transport, but a symbol of adventure and danger. However, this piece is not just a piece of history, but a reminder of when the Wild West captured the hearts of millions and is valued largely at,
I think at auction today, a realistic price for this would be between $10,000 and $15,000. Wow.
Magazines aren't just paper. They're packed with info and fun. In this talk, someone's fascinated by Mad Magazine's pages and asks where they're from. The other person discloses that they inherited the pages from their deceased uncle, excitedly expressing love for Mad Magazine and eager about its value. The conversation then shifts to discussing the magazine's history, focusing on its early satirical nature and the rarity of pages originating from issue 8. Emphasizing humor aimed at Dr. Frankenstein and Adolf Hitler, Mad, originally known simply as Mad, was first published in 1952 by Harvey Kurtzman and William Gaines, covering a wide range of subjects and mocking various targets, appealing to both teens and college freshmen with its cutting-edge content. The exceptional rarity of owning a complete storyboard is highlighted, likely to be treasured for comic art collectors. While examining the item, the appraiser said,
In today's market, conservatively at auction, I would put an estimate of $40,000 to $60,000 for the entire story.
An etching purchased for $1 turns out to be worth thousands of dollars. The guest who brought a picture said she has always loved to thrift since she was 15 years old. One day, she found the picture of snow at a thrift shop and purchased it for $1. The etching is titled Snow and Adobe and was made in 1934 by Jean Class, an American artist who received widespread recognition and awards during the 1930s. Class fell in love with Mexico when she and her husband visited the country. Then she set up a studio in Teos and started making etchings there. Snow and Adobe is a super scarce etching by Class and has never appeared in any auction. The owner had turned down a $2,000 offer to sell the picture. Was that the right decision?
I would put a replacement or insurance value on this work at $10,000.
$1? $10,000? Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. $10,000. Seriously.
A lover of Picasso was disappointed after learning that the ceramic vases she traveled all the way to France to buy was out of stock. The items she got instead turned out to have great value. She and her husband visited Valoris, where Picasso lived, to purchase 2 pieces that were designed by Picasso for Medora pottery. Both items were valued at,
how about at auction, roughly $8,000 to $12,000.
Oh my God, that is really amazing.
And this vase, about $10,000 to $15,000.
Oh my God. I would, but I'd never sell them ever.
Here's a piece of sheer elegance and refinement that embodies the artistry of its maker. Passed down to the guest to his family, these pieces sure elevate the dining experience.
Well, I have a feeling that they may have been in Europe during the latter part of the 19th century or the early part of the 20th century.
They are made in Bohemia by Moser, a company that has built a legacy of quality, craftsmanship, and exclusivity. What's interesting about these pieces is the beautiful enameling of the goblet and the foot. Another remarkable feature is that they come in the original fitted box, which adds to their intrigue. Because of the maker's prestige and its perfect condition, these pieces are of immense value and are estimated to be worth,
and if they are Moser, they could have as much value as $500 a piece.
Okay.
Talking a range from anywhere from $3,600 to $6,000.
George Smith's design, documented in a book in the 1800s, was later used as a hallmark to design this fender. The piece is a combination of black iron and gilded brass. The owner had bought the piece 21 years prior for £140. He profited quite well with the new value of £4,000.
Best one. I say it again. It's the best one I've ever seen.
These are 2 games for a Nintendo gaming system, and my dad gave these to me.
The games were Super Mario Bros. 3s and Double Dragon cartridges. The games were given to her by her father, but because he had them already, he never opened the ones he received. Super Mario Bros. And Double Dragon cartridge were widely played when they were released. How much would such a great game be worth?
Sealed condition.
Yes.
Conservatively at auction today, the Super Mario Bros. 3 would be $1,000 to $2,000.
Oh my God, that's a lot.
Okay, now this is where you're really gonna thank your dad. The Double Dragon. This is easily a $2,000 to $3,000 game.
Wow, that's a lot.
So, total at auction today for the pair of cartridges, you would be at $3,000 to $5,000 in the market.
Oh my gosh, that's surprising.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you, Dad.
The guest purchased these 1980 Topps basketball cards in 1990 for $1,000, influenced by a friend who believed they would be a good investment. Highlighting the significance of the set, the appraiser explained that it featured rookie cards of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson on the same panel, a rarity due to their college rivalry.
This was mostly due to their fierce competition they had in college. On the front right there, they actually show how you can separate them, although of course in the packs they do come still connected.
This particular set had 8 cards per pack, 36 total packs, and 88 different panels. The guest confirmed never being compelled to open the box, maintaining its pristine condition.
The top of everyone's want list is the Bird Magic rookie card and a Michael Jordan rookie. You have one of the two here that you may get if you were to open this box.
The appraiser estimated the box to fetch
This market right now, that box at auction would bring $25,000 to $30,000.
Oh, nice.
The guests seemed delightfully shocked to hear the price they could bring. This Carrette limousine toy car, purchased by the guest's wife in 1965 as a Christmas present for $12, is a remarkable find from a little antique store in Maxville, Kansas. Made by Georges Carrette, a Frenchman who moved to Germany and established a toy company, this toy car dates back to around 1905, a time when cars and...
Now, this was made around 1905.
Despite its rough condition, with original features like a painted tin driver, opening doors, a brake mechanism, and...
Actually has a brake mechanism. It was quite a deluxe little toy, complete with a glass windshield.
The appraiser explains the importance of preserving antique toys in their original condition, highlighting that restoration or cleaning can sometimes diminish their value. An exceptional example of this toy sold at auction for $5,700 in excellent condition. The appraiser estimates that the guest's toy, in its current state, could easily fetch.
Then it would easily bring $2,500, $3,500.
Although this painting had no signature, the appraiser could tell who the artist was from its brushstrokes. The artist was Sister William Beechey, a British painter who painted many people of high societal status, including King George III. The portrait on the show was that of two unknown ladies.
Other details, such as the face, here and here, are really very nicely painted.
The owner was surprised to hear the appraiser say,
Fully accepted as by Sir William Beechey, is probably going to be worth somewhere in the region of sort of 15, maybe as much as £20,000.
The guest believes that this is unattractive, but what does the appraiser say about the value? The cup was made in 1890 during the Victorian era and inspired by Italian Renaissance design. It was manufactured by 4 London pottery manufacturers called the Martin Brothers. A crack on the cup affected its value, making the final appraisal £400 to £600. Keep your antiques safe, people.
This colorful vase, adorned with wild roses, thorny branches, butterflies, a bumblebee, and a dragonfly, is a family heirloom with a rich history. Acquired by the guest from her daughter on Mother's Day, it originally belonged to her daughter's husband's grandmother's grandmother, making it a cherished piece passed down through generations. Despite initial impressions, the vase is not just a decorative piece, it is hand-painted pottery.
Very well painted. It's very colorful.
Yes.
And it's hand-painted. And it's got these wild roses on it.
The vase features lines of poetry and the name Celia Thaxter, 1880, respected American poet born in 1835 in New Hampshire. She associated with famous literary figures like Emerson, Thoreau, and Longfellow. This particular vase, with its exquisite painting and the inclusion of Celia Thaxter's poetry, is a rare find, exceeding the quality of other known pieces. While it's challenging to assign a precise value, similar hand-painted pieces by Celia Thaxter have been auctioned for prices ranging from...
I think a retail price would probably be somewhere in the $3,000 to $5,000 range.
It's not so ugly anymore.
Yeah.
3 comic strips dating back to the early 20th century, including Disney's popular Mickey Mouse comic, were signed and given to this man's father. The other 2 comic strips were Crazy Cat by George Harriman and Prince Valiant by Harold Foster. The signatures on the comics includes that of the founder of Disney, Walter Disney. The strips are valued at $105,000 to $140,000.
Goodness.
You can see why my heart just went pitter-pat, pitter-pat when you opened that portfolio.
I'm astonished.
This vintage whirligig has an interesting story, having been left in a closet of a house purchased by the guest and her husband in 1979. It remained there until recently when it was rediscovered. The guest's husband, upon learning they had tickets to the show, insisted that the whirligig be taken along, leading to its reappearance after many years. The whirligig is notable for its size and condition, with its paddles currently frozen in the down position.
Well, these are pieces of art that were made probably by some family member to put outside their house so children could watch it rotate in the wind.
While its functionality may be limited at the moment, the whirligig's rarity and appeal to collectors make it a valuable piece. In a retail setting, this vintage whirligig, could fetch a price ranging from
Retail setting, a piece such as this, we're talking about $4,000 to $6,000.
Wow. I'm shocked. Well, Ted, did you notice when you showed this to me that I kind of stopped breathing a little bit?
Yeah, you did.
The blanket was given by Kit Carson to the foster father of the owner's grandmother.
It's probably a chief blanket, but...
That's exactly what it is, and it's not just a chief's blanket, it's the first type of chief's blanket made.
The blanket was made by Navajo women for UTA chiefs and was called UTE First Phase Wearing Blanket. The blanket was made from hand-woven churro sheep wool and was in use from 1800 to the 1840s.
It's an extraordinary piece of art. It's extremely rare. It is the most important thing that's come into the Roadshow that I've seen. On a really bad day, this textile would be worth $350,000. On a good day, it's about $500,000.
Oh my God.
The owner wasn't expecting the blanket to value as much.
I can't believe this.
Maybe 20%.
Wow. Can't believe it.
The blanket was bought by an anonymous buyer of $400,000. It was then donated to the Detroit Institute of Arts. There are plenty of other unique items that have appeared on the Antique Roadshow. Watch more of our videos to hear all about them.
Little Guest's grandpa gifted him a remarkable antique, a Caesar Chalon plane from 1725. Caesar Chalon, once a slave, became independent in 1753 after the death of his master, Francis Nicholson, a plane maker. He marked his tools, becoming one of the first African-American business owners in America. Plane bears his stamp, indicating that he lived in Wrentham, Massachusetts. This piece showcases his exceptional craftsmanship. It cuts a complex molding known as Boltechon molding, which is prized by collectors. A Caesar Chalon plane is highly coveted in the world of tool collecting. Estimated value is...
But I would say an auction estimate on this plane would be about $6,000 to $8,000.
So ironic that these pieces are more valued when they are in a decomposed state. My father was a bottle digger and had gotten them when he used to bottle dig. The bottles were made between the 17th to 18th century to serve wine on tables.
A little bit taller, and these would date from 1730, 1740, possibly up to the 1750, getting more and more taller, gradually coming into the wine bottle shapes we know today.
Each bottle was valued according to their condition, falling in the range of £60 to £500.
More of these in good condition, they'll be £1,000 each while we're going for a dive.
Lovely, thank you.
This man seemed like he was about to pass out after hearing the value of his great-great-grandfather's portrait. The portrait was made by Lawrence Alma Tadema, and the subject, Leopold Lowenstamm, was Tadema's engraver. Lawrence Tadema was renowned and one of the wealthiest artists of the 19th century. In 2010, Tadema's painting was sold at auction in Sotheby's for $36 million, making it the highest amount achieved by a Victorian painter. Leopold's portrait was valued at £200,000 to £300,000.
The guest showcased a ceramic vase belonging to her husband, purchased online in 2005 for $1,500. The appraiser acknowledged the significance of the extraordinary glaze, which was made by Grand Faux Pottery from Redlands, California, around 1900 to 1920. The dazzling glaze effect was achieved by firing the piece at a very high temperature.
And it means you can fire at a very high temperature, and consequently the glaze and the body mature at the same time in the kiln. It's one of the reasons you get these dazzling glaze effects on this.
The appraiser elaborated on the unique sunray glaze, characterized by multiple colors ending cobalt blue. The particularly unique glazes made Grand Faux Pottery popular, but they operated for less than 4 years, marking the pinnacle of the American art pottery movement. The piece was well marked, but details about the company and its owner, Brockman, remained mysterious. The guest expressed astonishment at the valuation of the exceptional item.
At auction, I would estimate this for $10,000 to $15,000 on today's market. Yeah, and it could well bring more because it's really that good.
This isn't just an ordinary large silver cup. It was a cup presented in 1874 as the Queen's Prize during the Royal Ascot, a sporting event held each year in Britain. The shape of the cup was derived from 12th century object. They were made by the former royal silversmith, Garrards. The item was inherited by Yona from her aunt.
Today would probably fetch something between 30 and 40,000 pounds sterling.
Kestner doll is a beautiful example of a girl doll with sleeping eyes. The eyes of this doll can be opened and closed, adding to its lifelike charm. Identified by the mold number 171, this doll is a sought-after collectible among doll enthusiasts. In terms of value, this Kestner doll would retail for approximately $950 to $1,200. The guest showcased a piece of epitome of functionality and style.
Falls, Virginia, and it was owned by a couple that built the house around this furniture.
This piece is an end table made by the remarkable George Nakashima, who was an American architect and furniture maker regarded as one of the leading innovators of 20th century furniture designs. Looking at the piece design, you could see that it is very architectural. Similarly, this piece has great shape, speaks to time, and the base is fantastic.
Great shape, it speaks to the time, the base is fantastic. I think it really speaks to the whole design mode that he was trying to produce. The 70s were a great time period for him.
Also, it is made of walnut, which enhances its aesthetic appearance and has a signature of its maker on it, which adds to its perceived value. However, with its unique design and unparalleled quality, this furniture piece is evident to the artistry of its maker and would sell for.
I would estimate this piece at auction at $20,000 to $25,000.
Oh my goodness.
It's been more than 100 years now, and Titanic is still a subject of discussion all around the world. A daughter to a doctor, Edward McGee, on the Carpathia and Titanic, came with the awards he received in recognition of his efforts to rescue passengers. The awarded items include medals and a plaque. Items such as these are personal and can hardly be traded for money. The value placed on the items was £50,000.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
A beautiful bag belonging to the guest's great-grandfather was showcased. Originally acquired from a Cherokee warrior in 1846, the bag was likely made by a Cherokee woman and was intended to be worn over the shoulder. The appraiser discussed the historical context of the Cherokees' forced removal from their homeland in the late 1830s. The bag featured floral designs meant for protection and aiding in hunting or warfare. The materials used included trade elements like red Stroud cloth, glass beads, and silk thread. The bag was backed with printed calico, which would have to come from England. The guest also brought a document signed by his great-grandfather dated back to 1846, mentioning the bag and its history. Suggesting to repair the beadwork and other issues, the value estimated for the remarkable piece was
the Indian Tuquo, a Cherokee. The bag and the document together, I think, would have a value of about $100,000.
Oh, that's a lot of money.
This man brought a 7-barrel volley gun that was used by the Royal Navy during the Napoleonic War. An ancestor of the guest acquired the gun in place of debt that his debtor couldn't pay. Since then, the gun has been in the family and passed down generations. The gun was invented by a British engineer, James Wilson, but named Knock Gun after the gunmaker Henry Knock.
And quite exciting. I'm sure that there's many gun collectors would just like to see this, have the opportunity even to handle it. Something in relation, as a Knock 7-barrel volley gun, something in relation to £4,000.
Most people wouldn't look twice at an abandoned jacket covered in mud. This man, however, picked up an abandoned muddy jacket and program used during the Woodstock Music Festival in 1969. The two items had a fair value, and the owner would be glad he picked them.
When these do come up for sale at auction, they traditionally sell anywhere between $2,000 and $2,500. So in the condition that you have here, I would expect this one to sell anywhere in the $500 to $600 range at auction.
This exquisite jug, dating back to 1799, has a rich history, having been purchased by the guest's grandfather from a family. The jug is a fine example of Italian mollica or maulica, which was commonly used for pharmacy storage.
This is a very nice jug, probably a pharmacy storage jug, in that the pharmacies were attached to the churches at one point.
Despite being from a period that is not as highly sought after by collectors compared to earlier centuries, this jug stands out for its remarkable decoration and historical significance. The intricate design of the well-preserved date of 1799 added to its allure, making it a valuable piece for collectors of antique pottery. At auction, this Italian Molocher pharmacy jug could fetch a price ranging from
A good estimate at auction would be $1,500 to $2,500.
Okay, thank you.
George Nakashima, an American woodmaker and father of the American craft movement, made this unique furniture for the guest's family. The guest brought in the furniture and a sketch of the bench that was done by George. Luckily for them, they kept George's original sketch, which boosted the value of the bench.
Oh my God. Now, because you have the drawing, you get to add a few thousand more on top of that. So say we're at the $45,000 mark. For insurance, you might want to raise it higher, but this is, I'd say $45,000.
Beautiful Japanese woodblock prints led to Impressionism, made from the 17th century. To the early 20th century, the prints are mostly paintings of kabuki actors and referred to as actor prints. The guest album was painted by a man called Utagawa Toyokuni. The album had a total of 80 pages and was valued at £2,500 to £3,500.
Really? 25 shillings has worked into £2,500.
The guest recalls a significant event surrounding the Time magazine cover featuring George W. Bush. Following the 9/11 terrorist attacks, Bush was scheduled to travel from Fargo after the State of the Union address in 2005. The cover, featuring Bush in a solemn pose, holds particular emotional weight as it was published in the aftermath of 9/11. It is noted that Bush appeared on approximately 34 Time covers, but this one is regarded as the most poignant. Appraiser estimates that the magazine could sell for $1,500.
A beautifully designed wooden sofa table remains intact in its original form. The table was made from mahogany in the early 19th century.
Now, it's made of the most wonderful cut from mahogany. It has this curious sort of grain in it. Very hard timber, very difficult to work.
It was passed on to the guest by her great-great-aunt. The table was valued at £10,000 to £12,000.
Gosh.
Gosh.
It's a good
Golly
for our
gosh.
prudence, I say.
Yes.
All right.
Fantastic.
The guest brought in a captivating oil painting depicting a five-masted schooner, a cherished heirloom passed down from her great-grandfather, Marcus L. Uran.
And actually, Marcus L. Uran is the founder of Ocean Spray Cranberries. I know he was a lawyer and kind of a prominent man, so...
The inscription on the back revealed the artist to be Solon Badger, a renowned painter of ship portraits. He was born in 1873 in Massachusetts, raised there, and died in 1919, with most of his paintings being ship portraits. And this painting is inscribed on the reverse, Charlestown, Mass., which is where he had his studio. The artist's skill is truly unique, particularly in capturing the intricate details of the five-masted schooner, each adorned with flags, a detail that heightened the painting's desirability. The painting is oil on canvas, and the rigging is generally done in pencil. Despite minor dings, the original pigments remained intact, whereas restoration could have inadvertently removed these details. This untouched state, combined with the painting's documented historical provenance, makes it a highly sought-after piece. Considering the painting's exceptional condition and provenance, its insurance value is...
I would insure this for closer to $35,000.
$35,000? Oh my goodness.
These poster designs were used on the cover of Railway Age magazine in the 50s. Some people, however, weren't totally fascinated about the art, but the guest was. He purchased the posters and original art from private dealers. Some of the items had the signature of the artist, Burn Hill. All the items brought in by the guest valued between $37,000 to $42,000. It's quite fascinating to see an object that has lived for almost 2,400 years. The object is a figurine that was made in Rhodes. It was purchased by the owner for £10 at a local shop. A figurine which represents a mother goddess was made with terracotta.
It's so wonderfully calm and serene, isn't it, as it sits there, unfortunately damaged.
The item had some damage and was valued at
140, 150 pounds.
This painting by Frank Moss Bennett is greatly admired that it has been reproduced many times. Frank Moss was a British painter popular for his historical paintings. The father of the guest purchased it for £60 in 1940, and the value for the painting during the show was £5,000 to £7,000.
Really? And might even be worth more.
Good Lord.
Reading a World War II journal would most likely bring tears to the eyes. A journal of an air corps during the war was brought in by his daughter. It contained some sketches and documentations of events that happened while he was a prisoner of war at a camp in Bath. For the value of the journal, the appraiser had this to say.
So we've got the monetary value, which at auction would be in about the $2,000 to $3,000 range. And as far as I'm concerned, its historic value is priceless.
Thank you, Dad.
This item is an embroidery made around the era of King Charles II. The appraiser informed that such artwork was common among the rich ladies of the 17th century period. They used French knot stitches and cut silk thread to create the art piece. The piece had detailed designs of different figures like a lion, mermaid and rabbit. The piece was valued at £6,000 to £8,000.
Vintage Rolex watch has a remarkable history, having belonged to the guest's father, who received it from his grandmother around 1941 when he joined the Air Corps after the Pearl Harbor attack. This watch has a special significance as it was on his wrist when he was shot down and throughout his life thereafter. The watch, dating back to the 1940s, bears the inscription Rolex Army on the dial, indicating its military origin.
Of the 1940s watches, this particular model is very desirable, and Rolex has a very unique relationship with the military. They made these watches in the 40s, they put Army on the dial.
Despite the dial being repainted, which affects its value to collectors, this Rolex model from the 1940s is highly desirable and rare, especially among military watch enthusiasts. If the original dial with the Army inscription had been preserved, this watch would retail for $3,000 to $5,000.
Unfortunately, because the dial's been refinished, it's about $2,000 in a retail shop.
It's still priceless.
Dig-in medals presented to racing pigeons used during the Second World War were brought to the Roadshow, and they have such an interesting story. The pigeons were used to carry messages from France to the UK during the war. They were transported in a very fascinating way.
And they were parachuted in. The pigeons were actually tied into a small bundle, so they couldn't obviously fly away, and they were dropped out of an aircraft over to the resistance fighters or the frontline troops and so on.
The items were valued at £180,000 to £200,000.
Wow! Wow! Our members will be pleased.
Watch more entertaining videos on our channel.
The guest stumbled upon the table at a garage sale in Grand Rapids, intrigued by its French appearance. He noticed the name and address on the drawer, which led him to believe it was French. Upon opening the drawer, the guest discovered the signature P. Sormani, Paris, indicating it was crafted by Paul Sormani, a renowned ebonist from Paris in the 19th century. The appraiser explains that Sormani specialized in high-quality French 18th century furniture and that the table, likely a copy of an 18th century piece, was made in the 19th century. The table is identified as a table ambulante, or movable table, due to its lightness and small size. This table is praised for its masterful cabinet work, featuring rosewood veneer.
Probably ebonized flowers, cabriolet, tiny little foot, all capped with doré bronze.
The unique cantback sets Sormani's work apart from other cabinet makers. Guest mentions he has been applying linseed oil to the table, but the appraiser advises against further oiling as it can damage the wood over time. Instead,
there are things that need to be done on this piece.
Right.
I would probably want to get a little bit of the veneer fixed on it. There's got to be a museum locally that has a good decorative arts collection.
the appraiser estimates the table's value to be between
I would say that a piece like this is probably in the $4,000 to $6,000 range in terms of an auction estimate.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
it's been really helpful to know about it.
Thank you so much.
Just like the photographer, the owner of these pictures felt nostalgic after seeing the photos, which were photographed by William Christenbury. She purchased both photos for $10 at a thrift store and was super excited to hear the appraiser say,
I would estimate each of these between $1,000 and $1,500.
Oh. Thank you so much. Not bad for $10.
Not bad for $10.
Her grandmother's engagement ring later becomes hers. However, she chooses to store it safely in a deposit box. The ring was a popular type of ring in the early 20th century. It is a highly stylish yellow diamond and platinum ring made with about half a carat of diamond.
It looks to me like a very fine sort of East Coast jeweler. It's unsigned, so we can't really determine who made it. But because of the fine platinum work and this really nice garland motif, which we have on the sides here as well, it's a very fine ring and a very fine manufacturer.
The ring's value was $4,000 to $6,000. This lady must have felt the shivers when she was chatting with the prestigious Elvis Presley backstage before his show began. Elvis gave her his belt and an autographed record album after their encounter. Both pieces are valued at $7,500 to $10,000.
The guest brought in a cherished poster they had acquired over 20 years ago at an auction.
I always liked this because it reminded me it really is about the kids and not about uniforms and trophies and all the other things.
Identified as a poster featuring Skippy Skinner, a popular comic strip character from the 1920s to 1940s. Skippy was depicted as a relatable, everyday fifth grader who loved baseball, even though he wasn't the best player. This character, unlike many of his contemporaries who were cartoon animals or exaggerated caricatures, resonated with readers for being a regular kid. His immense popularity during his heyday led to a range of merchandise including dolls, toys, and even a brand of peanut butter named after him, Skippy. The poster itself was identified as a rare advertising piece for Spalding bats, likely created in the early to mid-1930s, produced by Percy Crosby. It cleverly leveraged the immense popularity of Skippy Skinner to promote their product. The guest, who had purchased the poster for a mere $50, was astonished to learn of its insurance value of...
I would put an insurance value on it of $5,000.
Really? Wow. Holy smoke.
A lot of people know about Pokemon card game, but not many know about the card game that preceded it and influenced its creation. Magic: The Gathering was a card game that was first launched in 1993. The husband of the guest played the game and had all the cards in the meter, set including the most wanted Power 9 cards.
In the remainder of the binder, for all the pages there, because they're all beta cards, they're all early 1993 beta cards, you're looking at an additional $10,000 to $15,000. So cumulatively, you're looking at auction between $65,000 and $100,000 in trading cards here.
Oh my gosh.
Now this is like, let's send the kids to college kind of money right here.
When this woman ran for Coolidge Cotton Day Rodeo Queen, she proudly rode the saddle her grandfather gifted her when she was 4 years old. The saddle had designs that were made with cactus fiber. It was made around the early 20th century and used during special occasions. The saddle had a value of $6,000 to $8,000.
Wow.
So it's a really special
it's
thing.
It's very special to me, and every time I look at it, I remember Granddad. So that's the
best part.
That's the best part.
The guest inherited the table from an aunt whose father-in-law was an estate dealer in Rochester, New York, and was the only one in their generation to inherit everything from their aunt. The guest initially thought the table's top was marble, but their husband believes it's slate. They also mentioned that their grandchildren often put their drinks on it. The appraiser identifies the scene at the table's top as St. Peter's Square in the Vatican.
There's a long tradition in the 19th century and earlier of wealthy people traveling to Europe, especially Italy, on grand tours, and they would bring things back with them.
Table's stand is made of rosewood, suggesting it was crafted in Boston, possibly in the 1850s or 1860s, to fit the Italian Piatra Dora top. The Piatra Dora decoration includes various marbles and scagolia, a painted form of marble, along with the micro-mosaic made of tiny glass pieces, showcasing a meticulous and labor-intensive technique. The appraiser estimates that the table would likely fetch.
Auction would probably have an estimate of $10,000 to $15,000.
Wow.
So if your grandkids are putting their drinks on it, it is marble, so I don't think they'll hurt it too much.
First sight, you wouldn't think the content of this box would be a complete set of painting tools. The box was gifted to the lady by her father. It was made in the 19th century by the company Windsor and Newton, which was founded by William Windsor and Henry Newton. The content of the box included watercolor, brushes, palette trays, and other painting materials. The painting box valued at £2,500 to £3,000. A goldsmith, Paul Storr, whose pieces were widely used by English royalty, made these charming salt cellars that were brought in by a man during an episode in 1991. The man had inherited the pieces from his father. The show's appraiser guessed that the salt cellars were replicated after a design made by another English goldsmith, Nicholas Brimont.
My father gave them to me about a year, 18 months before he died.
I think I'd have to be looking at £40,000.
Good Lord. You do surprise me.
The guest presented a fascinating collection of 15 antique travel books inherited from their father. These Italian-made volumes, dating back to the 1830s or 1840s, served a unique purpose for tourists. The books are educational tools and contained images and descriptions of famous Italian sculptures, such as the Venus de Milo and the Three Graces, Antinous, and various other antique sculptures, along with corresponding numbers for easy reference. These portable guides were akin to early postcards, allowing tourists to document and share their cultural experiences upon returning home. The guest has around 15 volumes, and they cover art history from the early days until sometime in the 19th century. The collection is in exceptional condition, considering its age and frequent use by travelers. At auction, this entire collection would fetch around...
Let me tell you, they're worth about $7,000.
The appraiser described this painting as dirty. However, it had an astounding value. The owner revealed that it had been in her family for over 100 years. It was passed on by her maternal grandfather, who purchased it from Holland. The painting was made by a Dutch painter, Herman Swanevelt, who made landscape paintings. The painting that belonged to the guest was valued at $15,000. His grandaunt's most prized possession racks up thousands in value regardless of the damage it has. Before the guest's grandaunt passed away, she gave him this beautifully painted bowl. The bowl was made in China around the 18th century. During that period, people sent bowls and the designs they wanted on them to China to get painted. The guest's bowl was colourfully painted with European hunting scenes. Sadly, the glaze inside the bowl was flaked, and it had a crack on the edge.
But still, it is one of the smartest kinds of punch bowl. In this condition, £1,800.
The guest recounts a flea market experience where they stumbled upon a collection of rolled-up posters, initially mistaking them for circus posters. However, upon closer inspection, they realized they were advertising posters for circuses.
This was 30 for how many posters?
7.
The circus captivates the imagination of everybody.
Right.
The appraiser discusses the history of circus posters in America, dating back over 100 years to P.T. Barnum, who used them to advertise his circuses with elements of humor, exoticism, and excitement. The appraiser highlights one particular poster as their personal favorite, noting its inclusion of...
Because this one has elements of everything. It has animals, it has music, it has humor,
which are key elements in attracting audiences to the circus. In terms of value, appraiser estimates that the clown poster could sell for...
At auction, the clown poster next to you would probably sell between $300 and $400.
The lion and tiger poster, with this condition, it could sell for...
The lion and the tiger, which is not in great condition,
right.
So I have to give it a lower estimate, would probably sell for $200 to $300.
Okay.
And the favorite poster could sell for...
This one would probably sell for about $400 to $600,
wow.
Maybe even $500 to $750 if we had a monkey lover.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thanks for
you.
bringing them.
The These decorated tiles that hung on the guest's fireplace were made by John Sadler, a tile printer who was based in Liverpool. The tiles were made in the 18th century to serve as a decoration for houses. The guest tiles had paintings of a sailor leaving and returning from a voyage. The tile with John's signature had a value of £200, while the others were valued at £120. For 20 years, the guest has had this Victorian painting in her possession. The painting was bought by her husband out of the couple's admiration for it. It was painted by an English painter, Carlton Alfred Smith. Carlton made many paintings which showed scenes of mothers and their daughters. The guest's painting was equally a detailed scene of mother and her sleeping daughter.
Always has this rather delicate touch. It's the cat, really, which is also so beautifully painted by the fire. It would be worth between £7,000 and £10,000, British pounds.
It's more than we thought.